Before Romeosantos, before Aventura, before it filled stadiums in New York or played in Tokyo,
Bachata was born with a worn-out guitar, a voice broken by heartbreak, and a society that wanted to silence it.
In this documentary, you will discover how this genre, influenced by boleros, rancheras, and merengue, managed to survive the disdain of the elite, cling to corner stores, jukeboxes, and the village fields, and how a handful of artists and a brave radio station sparked the flame that would take it from the neighborhood to the world. To understand the soul of bachata, we must start with its roots. In the Dominican Republic of the mid-20th century, during the era of dictator Rafael Trujillo, the country was isolated, but not silent. At night, radios and jukeboxes in the countryside played Cuban boleros, Mexican rancheras, Puerto Rican jibara music, and more. Rural guitarists learned these romantic melodies, and they mixed them with Dominican merengue and other local rhythms, strumming acoustic guitars under the tropical sky. These guitar love songs were the seeds of bachata. By the late 1950s, informal gatherings in patios, known locally as bachatas, meaning casual parties, already included this music. No one called the genre bachata yet, but the elements were already there. Sincere lyrics of love and heartbreak, serenade guitars, bongos, maracas, and a voice full of emotion. This was the musical land where bachata sprouted, an Afro-Latin mix of bolero romance and the harsh reality of the countryside. The official birth of bachata as a recorded genre can be traced to an exact date: May 30th, 1962. That day, a young Dominican singer named José Manuel Calderón entered a Radio Televisión Dominicana studio in Santo Domingo and recorded a song titled ¿Qué será de mí? Without knowing it, he was making history. Today, this is considered the first recorded bachata. Back then, this music did not yet have a clear name. Calderón and his bandmates thought of their style simply as a livelier bolero. A bolero with more rhythm. We just wanted the bolero to sound less sad. Calderón would later say about that session. They did not know that this modest track would start a musical movement. The record, ¿Qué será de mí?, began to circulate in 1962. Although it was not a massive commercial success, it marked the starting point. Calderón released other songs like Borracho de Amor, and some troubadours with guitars in Santo Domingo, and Santiago began to record similar melodies. The music was starting to gain ground, but it would soon face great resistance, which would threaten to destroy bachata before it could take off. From its early days, bachata carried a strong social stigma. The Dominican elite, the upper and middle classes, despised this guitar music from the neighborhoods. To their ears, it was vulgar, unsophisticated, the opposite of the refined foreign boleros or the patriotic merengues they preferred. They even had derogatory nicknames for it. Some called it disdainfully music of bitterness, emphasizing its sad themes. Others labeled it as guard music, or said it was only suitable for cabarets and brothels. The first bachata songs had raw and earthy lyrics, tales of broken hearts, betrayal, passion, often in simple and unpolished language. The singers were typically peasants or people from poor neighborhoods, many barely making a living. To respectable society, both the lyrics and the singers seemed crude. Bachata was considered low-class music, made by And for unrefined people, it was the soundtrack of poverty. Something that embarrassed those who aspire to rise on the social ladder.
Bachata was largely confined to the margins.
It was heard in the bodegas of rundown neighborhoods, where neighbors drank rum and played dominoes to the sound of the jukebox. It was heard in seedy bars and brothels on the outskirts of the city, places where respectable people never set foot. On the radio, bachata was almost invisible. Only 1 or 2 stations played it, usually in the hours before dawn, when almost no one was listening.
In the early 1970s, there was basically a media blackout. The main stations and television programs avoided bachata in a sort of veto born from elitism. But beneath the surface, a flame continued to burn silently. Because even in rejection, the rhythm refused to die.
So, how did this forbidden sound manage to break through from the alleys to the airwaves? Who dared to challenge the system and give it a voice? And what was the moment, the spark, that would ignite a revolution that would change music forever? One of the pillars that supported bachata during those dark years was an unexpected defender on the radio waves, Radio Guarachita. Founded in 1964 by a passionate radio producer named Radames Aracena. Radio Guarachita became the only station in Santo Domingo that consistently gave space to bachata. Radames Aracena understood something fundamental. The people wanted this music. At first, he tried to broadcast high-class music, Mexican rancheras, Cuban songs, to attract advertisers to his new station. But his audience was largely workers and migrants newly arrived from the countryside, and they preferred the rustic sounds of the local bachata artists, despite the low quality of the recordings. Seeing their enthusiasm, Aracena made a bold decision. He filled his station's programming with that Dominican guitar music that others rejected. In doing so, he challenged the direction of traditional media. Radio Guarachita, broadcasting on 690 AM, soon became the voice of bachata. Its signal reached far, from the slums of the capital to remote villages.
Atención, atención, servicio público de Radio Guarachita.
If you tuned in, you heard the latest bachata releases. Greetings to listeners in distant towns. Even on-air dedications that connected families separated by migration. Aracena did not stop at radio broadcasting. He also opened a small recording studio and a record label as an extension of Guarachita. With modest equipment, often just one microphone, he gave countless bachata singers the opportunity to record their songs. Every Saturday, hopeful musicians lined up outside his station, guitar in hand, waiting for their chance. The popularity of the radio station showed that bachata had a loyal audience among the grassroots. Even though high society mocked it, ordinary Dominicans tuned in. As a historian noted, by the early 1970s, Guarachita was the main lifeline for bachata musicians, who otherwise faced an implicit boycott from the industry. But the question remained, would that be enough to break the stigma? At the beginning of the 1980s, bachata had been simmering for 2 decades. Then, in 1982, an event occurred that would start to change everything. A veteran bachata singer named Luis Segura, known as the father of bachata, released a song titled Pena, also known for the plea in its lyrics. The song overflowed with heartbreak and despair. To everyone's surprise,
Pena became a national sensation. Suddenly, Pena was everywhere, playing on radio stations that had never played bachata, heard in high-class urban neighborhoods and rural fields. The song struck a chord. It even outsold all other records in the Dominican Republic at that time, surpassing the merengue hits and Latin pop songs that usually dominated the charts. For the first time, a bachata single was not only the king of the jukeboxes, it was topping the official sales charts and constantly playing on FM radio. Yes, FM radio. Pena broke the AM barrier, becoming the first bachata song to be widely broadcast on high-profile FM stations. Dominicans jokingly dubbed this sudden craze as the fever of bitterness. Bachata, the music of heartbreak, had become infectious. This was a decisive moment. Pena forced the cultural gatekeepers to pay attention. If a bachata record could surpass the most polished merengues in sales and shine, maybe there was some value there. Perceptions began to change. Suddenly, bachata was not just a dirty little secret of the poor. It was a legitimate part of Dominican popular music. Of course, not everyone was happy. Some intellectuals and conservative commentators complained that the invasion of bachata into respectable society was a bad sign, a decline in standards. But the genie was already out of the lamp. Bachata had proven its massive appeal. What followed was an explosion. The 90s were not just a golden era for bachata, was the era that redefined Dominican identity. Almost overnight, the genre evolved. It moved from smoky bars and jukebox corners to stadiums, radio charts, and national headlines. The music had matured. The sound became more precise, the guitar more electric. But the soul, it remained raw, it remained real. And at the forefront were titans who not only rode the wave, they were the wave. Anthonysantos, the mayimbe of bachata. He not only sang about heartbreak, he mastered it. With his voice full of emotion and his masterful guitar, Anthony gave elegance to bachata without losing its edge. His ballads became the new national anthems. They played at weddings, funerals, breakups, and reunions. Then came Luisvargas, the rebel. His style was unpredictable, his presence magnetic. He electrified the genre with experimental guitar riffs and unfiltered lyrics. Vargas didn't just play bachata, he expanded it. Together they transformed bachata into a movement. They didn't soften its pain, they amplified it. And that honesty? It resonated far beyond the Dominican borders. The 90s were the spark that lit the fuse. Bachata stopped being background music. It became the soundtrack of a generation. For lovers, for workers, for the island itself. From the rural neighborhoods of the Dominican Republic to the bright lights of international arenas, the story of bachata is one of triumph over prejudice. It is the story of how a music born from the heart of a people refused to be silenced. Today, when an audience in any corner of the world is carried away by a bachata, they not only move to the rhythm of a dance, they move to the rhythm of a story, to the soul of a culture, to a genre that embodies the bittersweet beauty of love. This is bachata. If you enjoyed this video and found value in it, make sure to subscribe to the channel, send it to a friend, and leave a comment below, telling us what you would like to see in the next video.